right, 22 minutes before 9 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in this Thursday morning. This is the segment of the morning show, the segment of AM Ocala Live. We call this segment NewsBites. We call it that because it's a bite of news, one at a time. We take the big news stories happening around the world, around the nation, around the state, and sometimes even around this city of Ocala, as well as Marion County. We deliver you the news bite-sized. We abbreviate it. We get to the point. We cut to the chase. We save you time. It gives you an opportunity to catch up on many stories, usually 20 or so, and you get it in a little bit of time as possible so you don't have to spend all day looking at the news and feeling like you left out of so many stories, because after all, we are in the information age and the news just doesn't stop. And the news that gets everybody talking is what we try to focus on here, whether it's serious, political, or sometimes not so serious. And nevertheless, these are the stories everybody else is talking about. You don't want to be left out, so just tune in. Simple as that. And we will give you, as we read the stories, the agencies that we get the news from, so that you can look the stories up if you want to know more about them or share them with a friend or whatever. And if you would like to sponsor this program, we are happy to speak to you as well. Not Robin and myself, but the sales staff here at the radio station. Just come to the studios at the Paddock Mall and ask about it. We will read your ad live if you prefer on this segment, and you can also have an ad on any segment on WOCA. Just ask. They'll tell you how easy it is. All right. I think I told you everything there to intro. Let's go to the first story. A 12-year veteran of the Secret Service who once defended President Obama with his life, Dan Bongino, now says the fog of scandals in the Obama administration and an inside look at the Obamacare debate led him to turn in his badge, turn on his former boss, and run for Congress as a Republican. I was behind the scenes for 12 years, said Bongino. I've been in the room during some of the most important conversations. He told this to ABC News reporters. He said he had access, because he was a Secret Service agent, and he had access to high-level discussions inside the White House. Bongino's former colleagues are unhappy with him parlaying his proximity to the president into a political career. Agents who worked with Bongino told ABC News, quote, he's trying to draw attention to himself and he's hijacking the Secret Service brand, unquote. Bongino, who protected Presidents Obama and George W. Bush, is running for the Republican nomination in Maryland's 6th Congressional District, a seat currently occupied by Democrat John Delaney. The election will be held next year.
Palestinians have blamed Israel for the death of Yasser Arafat after Swiss forensic tests confirmed that he was poisoned to death in 2004 with radioactive polonium. Mr. Arafat's widow, Suha, after receiving the test results yesterday, said her husband was the victim of a political assassination. Yasser Arafat had many enemies, including Palestinian and Arab rivals, but Wassel Abu Youssef, a member of the executive committee of the Palestine Liberation Organization, yesterday pointed the finger of blame at Israel. Israeli officials have categorically denied any involvement in Mr. Arafat's death, even though Israeli forces had surrounded his Ramallah Muqada headquarters for the 2.5 years before he was flown to a French hospital, where he died in November of 2004 at the age of 75 after falling into a coma. Foreign Ministry spokesman Yigal Palmore said the findings were more soap opera than science, according to the AP.
And this one from Fox News. President Obama yesterday sought to assuage anxious Democrats who are worried that Obamacare's troubled rollout is going to come back to haunt them during the 2014 midterm elections. There's a lot of pent-up frustration among Senate Democrats who are facing voters next year. A party source familiar with the meeting told Fox News the White House meeting took place between 16 senators as well as the president, Vice President Joe Biden, Chief of Staff Dennis McDonough, and Jeffrey Zients, a former Office of Management and Budget acting director who's been tapped to fix the troubled healthcare.gov website.
The asteroid that exploded over Russia in February has raised the prospect that relatively small space rocks crashing to Earth may pose a bigger danger than had been previously believed. Astronomers have mapped about 1,000 such objects between 33 feet to 165 feet in diameter in near-Earth orbit, similar to the asteroid that exploded over Chelyabinsk, Russia. This is a quote, but we estimate that there are 1 million of them out there, said Margaret Campbell Brown, a meteorologist meteor physicist at the University of Western Ontario. She added that today's Earth-based astronomical surveys can't spot most of these smaller rocks because they are too faint. The Russian asteroid deterioration was an unprecedented modern-day event, not just for the destruction caused, but also because the fiery descent was captured in detail by hundreds of amateur video cameras and an array of scientific instruments. From the Wall Street Journal.
And this from the Washington Times. Doctors are warning that attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, also known as ADHD, is being diagnosed far too often, resulting in some children taking powerful and risky drugs that they do not need. Researchers writing in the British Medical Journal said cases of ADHD have risen dramatically in the past few years. At the same time, doctors still aren't clear on the root of the disorder and think that many children may be inaccurately labeled. ADHD is a rather broad disorder defined by periods of inattention, hyperactivity, and impulsive behaviors. In other words, behaviors that are often typical in youth.
This is from the Associated Press. An upstate New York man admitted Wednesday that he crushed his son under a truck in a life insurance scheme that netted him $700,000. Disgusting.
God.
Carl Carlson's plea of guilty to second-degree murder came as a surprise a day before his trial was set to open. Seneca County District Attorney Barry Porsche said Carlson, 53, was charged with murder and insurance fraud in the death of his son Levi, age 23. Prosecutors said Carlson killed his son in 2008 by shifting a truck off its jacks as the younger man worked underneath it in a barn on the family's property in Romulus, 40 miles southwest of Syracuse. The sentence Carlson faces on December 16th was not released. Porsche said more details about the plea will be released tomorrow. They'll be released this afternoon. Authorities said Levi Carlson's handwritten will left everything to his father and was notarized at a bank on the morning of November 20th, 2008, days before his death. After he died, his father told sheriff's deputies he had returned from a funeral and found the truck had fallen off a jack and trapped his son. Carlson was arrested last year after investigators learned about the life insurance policy.
Wow.
It should be first degree. It was planned.
Yeah, I think so too. Out of from UPI News, I'm sorry. The amount of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere has reached record highs in 2012, resulting in a 32% increase in radiative forcing, the warming effect of our climate since 1990, according to the World Meteorological Organization. Carbon dioxide accounted for 80% of this increase, while methane and nitrous oxide accounted for the balance. The increase in atmospheric carbon dioxide between 2011 and 2012 was higher than its average growth over the last decade. As a result of this, our climate is changing, our weather is more extreme, ice sheets and glaciers are melting, and sea levels are rising, according to WMO Secretary General Michel Girard.
This is out of Tallahassee. In the aftermath of the red tape escapes, the head of the state prison system says they will not allow the early release of any inmates until court orders have been verified by a human being. The courts are planning a switch to electronic filing, but Corrections Secretary Mike Cruz says they're still going to have people double-checking with judges. The head of the Florida Department of Law Enforcement says 2 convicted killers who escaped from a North Florida prison apparently were part of a gang that was producing bogus court documents behind bars. Orlando Circuit Judge Belvin Perry, whose name appeared on some of the forged documents in the Franklin correctional case, recommends tougher punishments for people who file those documents. FDLE Commissioner Gerald Bailey says they're still looking for the people on the outside who helped Charles Walker and Joseph Jenkins file that paperwork with a court clerk in Orlando. The 2 men were recaptured in the Panhandle not long after news of their red tape escape became public.
The Obama administration appears ready to give some labor unions a break from costly fees under the new health care law, but the move is drawing criticism from Republicans who say it's unfairly favoring a key White House ally. The issue surfaced after the administration said last week that it plans to exempt certain self-insured, self-administered plans from paying a new temporary fee. Both unions and business groups have complained about the fees. Healthcare experts say the exemption could apply to some union-sponsored health plans, though it's unclear how many. Labor officials downplay any impact as minuscule and say most of their plans would not be exempt. And that's from the Las Vegas Sun.
Thousands of villagers are being evacuated as one of Asia's most powerful typhoons this year approaches the Philippines. The refugees include many from a central province devastated recently by an earthquake. Typhoon Haiyan is already packing sustained winds of 134 miles per hour and gusts of 155 miles per hour and could pick up strength over the Pacific Ocean before it slams into the eastern province of Eastern Samar. This is according to government forecasters. Eduardo Del Rosario, who heads the government's main disaster response agency, said governors and mayors are supervising the evacuation of thousands of residents away from landslide and flood-prone communities in several provinces where the typhoon is expected to pass. Haiyan is the 24th such storm to hit the Philippines this year. This is from the Associated Press, and our thoughts and prayers are with them.
This is also from the Associated Press. Jason Carter, the grandson of former President Jimmy Carter, and a state lawmaker from Atlanta, said this morning that he plans to run for governor of Georgia next year, energizing Democrats coming off a 2010 election in which the Republican Party claimed every statewide office. Carter's decision resets the 2014 race as Republican Governor Nathan Deal seeks re-election. Deal already faces two primary opponents and will now have to deal with a Carter campaign that is likely to grab national attention, be well-financed, and criticize the governor's ethics and leadership. Carter said concerns about education and the economy were at the center of his decision to run.
They called him the King of Gore, but Prey probably called him King of Pain. Paleontologists in Utah unveiled a new dinosaur yesterday named Lythronax arostes, the first part of which means King of Gore. It's an apt name for what turned out to be the great uncle of the famous Tyrannosaurus rex, or a tyrant lizard. Discovered in southern Utah in 2009, the Lythronax arostes skeleton looks like a half-size tyrannosaur, and it proves giant dinosaurs like T-Rex were around 10 million years earlier than previously believed. A full skeletal replica of the carnivore was on display at the Natural Museum of History in Utah, alongside a 3D model of the head and a large painted mural of the dinosaur roaming a shoreline. It should be an eye-opener because in many ways it's nothing like what visitors may expect. This was explained by the University of Utah paleontologist Randall Ermis, who co-authored a journal article about the discovery. For one thing, Lythronax, which was 24 feet long and 8 feet tall at the hip, was covered in feathers that formed a soft-to-the-touch down. For another thing, this predator's vision was likely quite sharp. Many armchair enthusiasts think dinosaurs had poor eyesight, thanks to an inaccurate description in the movie Jurassic Park, reported by Fox News.
And from the Associated Press, Southern Californians from Santa Barbara to San Diego have reported seeing a fireball that forecasters said was most likely a meteor streaking across the sky. The National Weather Service says the sightings reported started at 8 p.m. Wednesday night and are most likely associated with the South Taurids meteor shower that has been especially active in early November. Astronomers say the Taurids don't bring big numbers of visible meteors, but a high percentage of extremely bright ones that look like fireballs. Twitter lit up with reports of the sightings, though few, if any, were able to capture the streak on video or phone. Or photo, I guess. Comedian Bill Braden tweeted that he just saw an absolutely insane meteor in the sky above Glendale, California. Went on to say either that or the alien invasion has begun.
This is from the Associated Press. A southern New Mexico man who was pulled over for not making a complete stop was taken to 2 hospitals and forced to have anal probes, 3 enemas, 2 body x-rays, and a colonoscopy. Because police thought he was hiding drugs. This is according to a federal lawsuit. In El Paso, a woman crossing the border was strip searched, vaginally probed, then taken to the hospital for more invasive tests of forced bowel movement, x-rays and scans, the American Civil Liberties Union says. No drugs were found in either of the cases, and both people are now being billed for thousands of dollars by the hospitals, according to their attorneys, who say the cases raise serious questions about law enforcement practices along the border. The lawsuit, filed on behalf of David Eckert against police and sheriff's officials in Deming and Hidalgo County, which borders Mexico, alleges Deming police sought a search warrant for Eckert because they thought he appeared to be checking his buttocks when he got out of his car on January the 2nd. Don't check your buttocks.
Next
Leave your pants
story.
the way
It's
they
out
are.
of from the Reuters news agency. 2 people died and 8 were wounded yesterday evening when gunfire erupted outside of a barbershop on Detroit's east side. Police say they were searching for 2 suspects who were believed to have fled the scene in 2 vehicles after the shooting, which occurred at about 6:15 p.m. local time. It involved the occupants of 3 cars, 2 of them Chevrolet Impalas, that pulled into an alley near the back of the barbershop, according to the Detroit Free Press. Citing police sources, police are looking for at least 2 shooters.
This is from the Associated Press. U.S. Airways denies crew members used racial slurs against actor Brandon T. Jackson, who was kicked off a flight at a Phoenix layover because of unruly behavior. Jackson, best known for his role in Tropic Thunder, had been drinking on the New York City to Phoenix flight Monday night and became upset when flight attendants stopped serving him alcohol. He sent out 21 tweets about the experience and says a flight attendant called me the N-word. Phoenix police escorted Jackson out of the terminal at Sky Harbor International Airport. Officers said they determined that no crime had been committed, so they let Jackson go. The 29-year-old actor then took another flight to Burbank, California.
And the next story from the Bloomberg Report, the long foretold death of the video rental shop all but sealed yesterday with news that Blockbuster will shut its last 300 stores in the United States, can be read as a wistful moment for retail nostalgics or a proud triumph of digital simplicity. Blockbuster, bought by Dish Network out of bankruptcy 2 years ago, will turn out the lights on its final American storefronts early next year and end its DVD by mail business next month. The Blockbuster brand for digital offerings includes Dish's Blockbuster On Demand streaming service and the Blockbuster At Home movie channels available to subscribers. Blockbuster also has about 450 stores operated under franchise and license agreements, all but 50 of which are located outside the U.S., and those will continue operating.
This is a story from ABC News. It comes out of Clarkston, Washington. A 62-year-old man was taken to St. Joseph's Regional Medical Center after he was found in the middle of a road in Clarkston with his genitalia severed Tuesday morning. Around 4:20 a.m., the Asotin County Sheriff's Office and Clarkston City Police Department responded to a report of a naked man lying in the road on the 1400 block of 5th Street. When they found the man, he was lying in the road with his genitalia severed. The man was transported to St. Joseph's Regional Medical Center. Police officers were able to recover the man's genitalia for possible reattachment Wednesday. The Escotton County Sheriff's Office determined that the man was suffering from mental health issues and severed his own genitalia. His current condition is not known, but officials said the injuries were not life-threatening.
And from NBC News, the National Football League appointed prominent lawyer Ted Wells yesterday to independently investigate allegations of harassment and hazing in the Miami Dolphins locker room, according to the league. The investigation, the results of which NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell said would be made public, comes as a new report claims Dolphins coaches asked guard Richie Incognito to toughen up offensive tackle Jonathan Martin after he missed voluntary workouts last spring. Incognito, who is a hulking 319-pound veteran with a muddy record of unnecessary roughness and dirty play, who is accused of sending his teammate racist and threatening text messages and voicemails, apparently took the assignment too far. Multiple sources told the South Florida Sun-Sentinel newspaper. Incognito, who is 30 years old, was suspended indefinitely late Sunday, a week after Martin, who is 24 years old, abruptly left the team to get help for emotional issues and later accused the Dolphins of creating an unsafe work environment.
On the night Martin Walsh was elected mayor of Boston, Vice President Joe Biden made sure to call the incoming Democrat to offer his congratulations. Trouble is, he phoned the wrong Martin Walsh. This is according to the Boston Globe. This is a quote that Biden reportedly said, "You son of a gun, Marty, you did it." The Marty Walsh at the focus of the vice president's glee was a former aide to U.S. Senator Edward M. Kennedy, who is now the president of Gateway Public Solutions. Walsh thanked Biden for his kind words after telling him that he had reached the wrong Marty. He offered to help track down the incoming mayor. Also on Tuesday night, the Ron Walsh received phone calls from several Democratic luminaries, including Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz, a Democrat from Florida, the chairwoman of the Democratic National Committee. Walsh told the newspaper he expects in the coming weeks he may field more calls from people congratulating him under false pretenses.
And that's all the time we have for News Bites. We take this segment each morning and we squeeze in as much news as we possibly can. We do it so that you can catch up on the news without spending all day in front of the TV or on your radio or with a newspaper. And we cut to the chase, get to the point, and deliver the news in abbreviated form. We shorten it up. If you'd like to know the full stories, just pay attention as we read them. We do tell you, in most cases, the news source that we used here at WOCA, The Source. Robin, how many did we do today? 21
Yep.
stories. Again, if you'd like to sponsor this or any other show on WOCA, The Source, it's easy, and it's a good way to get some business through your doors, especially this holiday season. Get them coming to you. Don't let them go to your competitor. Come into this radio station and ask how you can advertise. It's easy. Sit down with one of our salespeople right here at the Paddock Mall, just outside of the food court, also known as the WOCA Commissary. We'll take a little break, and Veterans News is up next. We'll be right back.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA. Ocala.
ABC News Now. I'm Karen Chase. The big blue bird flies to Wall Street today as Twitter makes its hotly anticipated initial public offering. The price, $26 a share. The latest stop for the Olympic torch is the International Space Station. It arrived this morning aboard a Soyuz capsule and will be taken on a spacewalk Saturday before returning to Earth Monday. The same torch will light the cauldron for the Games in Sochi, Russia in February. The death toll is up to 3 in a barbershop shooting in Detroit. 7 others were wounded when witnesses say 2 men barged in the back door and opened fire with automatic weapons. While the shop is known as a gambling hotspot, police say it's not clear if a bad debt was the motive. Hall of Famer Tony Dorsett says his years of taking hits on the football field have apparently led to brain damage. He's in the early stages of dementia. Dorsett says he suffers memory loss, angry spells, and thoughts of suicide. Airlines predict nearly 2% more people will make Thanksgiving trips this year, and their planes will be 85% full, which could be a pain in the overhead. The